Guess who's back?
Welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to be talking about the NFL draft. Of course, it is coming up. We're going to be doing it a little bit different this year. But before we get into it, if you would please like and subscribe to the channel. If you enjoy NFL and Dallas Cowboys content, that is what we produce here. But let's get into it. So this year we are going to do a top 10. I mean, coincidentally, the Cowboys are the 10th pick. And then we'll also hit up a few players that we are interested in that should go in the first round, and then maybe some teams that, we think what their needs are and what they absolutely need to pick on. But let's get right into it. The first overall pick. This one's super easy, RJ. You want to take over for this one?
Yeah, Trevor Lawrence. He's been your prototypical quarterback since he was in high school at the Elite 11, known there. Coming into Clemson, he was talked about. From there, he took over, and he's just been your absolute, just like your Andrew kind of Luck replica as far as what you want in a quarterback and what coaches across the NFL look for when you're drafting a franchise guy. So he's going number one. Meyer was obviously in college. He probably knows him better than some guys. So, yeah.
He's got the arm strength, he's got the processing, which is the big thing. He's got mobility, and he can throw with that mobility. This guy would have been probably the first overall pick the last two drafts. Since he was a freshman coming out, people have been talking about him. This is a no-brainer, set in stone. So let's move on to the next pick. And for the Jets, picking at number 2, this one almost seems like it's been, set up already, and they've basically told us who they're going to pick already, and it seems like teams are treating it as they already know that Zach Wilson, the quarterback from BYU, is going to be the pick here. Zach Wilson is a product of Patrick Mahomes, basically, I would say. The traits that Patrick Mahomes showed have elevated his stock because he has that off-platform, just godly arm strength that Pat Mahomes had. He makes ridiculous throws down the field. He's relatively accurate, and he has mobility. He makes a lot of those, they jump off the film plays. But he does have lapses in his judgment. But I think coach will come in and say, hey, I can help you with that. I'm just going to take that raw physical gift that you have, and we're going to mold it and do everything that we possibly can with it. And especially with the new regime coming into New York, they're going to want that fresh start. They already jettisoned Sam Darnold, so obviously they're in the market for a quarterback. And just raw tools wise, you could even argue that he has just the best overall raw tools. Is he the full package? Not as much as a Lawrence, but tools wise, he's got as much talent and more than anybody in this class. Yeah,
and I think with a quarterback like that, it's all about also situation too. And I think he's going into a really good situation now with New York at what's his name? The really disciplined coach, Saleh.
Oh yeah, Robert Saleh.
So I think with a guy like that with that much tools, you can't let it get out of hand though early, because then it could could look bad to worse. But I think he is a really good product of Patrick Mahomes, and the upbringing of that and what you want to see in arm strength and talent wise goes. And hopefully this time around with Gase and all of them gone for New York and the sake of the Jets fans, that it's the right situation now to handle that type of quarterback like that, and hopefully he's brought into the right situation, can succeed early.
Moving into number 3, this is where the draft really starts. To me, it's no-brainer, but all the draft stuff coming out is, kind of confusing and kind of makes you scratch your head with the reports that are coming out. But to me, I think it's just a smokescreen. RJ, do you feel the same way about this player? Like, who's going to go number 3?
Dude, I do. Like, I 100% would, but I don't know. Kyle Shanahan can seem like he's dumb sometimes when he's really not. But
like stuck in his ways.
Yes.
And stuck in his ways. If you want to look at it, just look at it in playoff. What he's done in the playoffs. He's stuck to. I'm gonna.
You knew exactly what I meant when I said that.
I'm gonna do what I do, and F anybody who says otherwise, type thing. So, and what I'm alluding to is the fact that a lot of sources and reports are saying Mac Jones is going to be the guy at 3. I refuse to believe that until his name is called. I think Justin Fields will be and should be the pick.
Listen,
there are people who think Fields is the best quarterback in this class.
Yeah, and I kind of feel like that way too, based off of his I mean, you want to go back all the way to high school too. These guys competed against each other in the Elite 11, and Fields won. So, and you know, there's been some comments derived from sources from Orlowski and stuff and all that. As far as, you know, you could go back on that and talk about that with any quarterback probably if you really dug deep enough. As far as if you want to go back and talk about guys from college that knew him or whatever, right? But Fields to me is, you know, he's always been that guy since he committed to Georgia and stuff, and then he transferred. Like he was the number one. I'm pretty sure he was the number one quarterback prospect.
Yeah, he was, and then a series of injuries to him, and then an influx of quarterback talent at Georgia kind of just shuffled things. Look, to me, the thing is, the guy has everything that you want throwing the ball, and then his mobility running the ball is second to none in this class.
And then another reason why I would say it would be dumb also is because, yes, you know, you want your guy to be a pocket passer and you want him to win from the pocket and stuff. But also in Shanahan's offense, man, I'd be really excited as far as what kind of run design plays he could throw out there with a guy like Fields, especially because Shanahan and his offense is so known for that, by putting his guys in advantages, not from numbers, by angles and stuff, and creating space to run just kind of out of nowhere, even despite the number of men that can be in the box sometimes. So with a guy like Fields, like, that's just adds another element, running an offense within your offense with a guy like with an offense like Shanahan's.
And then the knock on that people that bring up for Fields is his processing, or how long he holds the ball. But in a Shanahan offense, he'll tell you it himself. I'm going to tell you where to throw the ball. I'm going to write up the play, and this is where it's going to go. There's not much processing with it. You just got to make the throw. And the other part of this that I don't understand is, yes, Shanahan has a type. He went to the Super Bowl with Matt Ryan, not a very mobile guy. Current quarterback is Jimmy Garoppolo, not a very mobile guy. But don't you want to break out of that mold?
Yeah.
And just, you know, get the best of both worlds? A modern NFL quarterback, that's what Field is. He's the prototype of what the modern NFL and what the future is. I'd much rather have that, a dual threat guy, over an unathletic guy who can, you know, put the ball in the spot like a Mac Jones. I mean, I won't say those guys are a dime a dozen, but every guy who picks up the football and is a starter should be able to put the ball in the spot.
Me personally, I like Fields as is a higher ceiling than Lawrence coming into the NFL.
Ceiling, yeah, I would say that, but I mean, Lawrence has the highest floor. There's a lot less variance.
Exactly,
there. The most variant is Wilson, but I mean, it's you know, it's with quarterbacks, and they'll say at the top, it's different flavors of ice cream. Whenever you're picking up that high,
and let's be real hard. Any of these three guys would go number one in any of other drafts, but the thing is, they're all in the same draft this year.
Yep. So Fields at 3. Now, if it is Mac Jones, this is going to be a crazy draft night, because then for 4, the phone is going to be ringing off the damn hook. RJ, before we started recording, you were saying that you heard something from Arthur Blank, the owner of the Falcons, who own the 4th pick in the draft, making you think that they're leaning quarterback. I think it's a smokescreen. I really think it's a smokescreen with anything dealing with quarterback with the Falcons. One, mainly because financially they're going to be tied for upwards of $60 million between the 2 years between this season and next season with Matt Ryan. I just don't think it would make any kind of sense for them to invest in a quarterback if he's not going to be starting probably this year, really. They have a lot of veteran weapons on the team. They have a new head coach coming in. And at the end of the day, Matt Ryan, I mean, he's a pretty good quarterback. He's above average, that's for sure. He's not elite, but he's good. So I think they can win with him. They obviously made it to the Super Bowl with him. But let's just pretend like there's no trade here and they are picking at 4. But given all the things that I've said, I think they're going to invest in, or they're going to take the best player available outside of quarterback. And to me, that's Kyle Pitts. We've talked about him in a previous video, generational type player. The Falcons already have a very stacked wide receiver core. The new coach coming in, Arthur Smith, he is very good at utilizing his tight ends. Jonnu Smith had very good seasons with him these past few years with the Titans. And offensively, he's very, very creative. So I think he would be very well suited to be a coach that could fully utilize everything that Pitts brings to the table and integrate him into what should be a new look Falcons offense.
Yeah, in the NFL, it's always a win-now mode, right? Unless you're really a team that's really going through it. So if you want your fans and stuff to buy in and you want to win now, Kyle Pitts is the best pick. I understand you'd want to you'd want to invest in the future. You'd want to get that guy, but the risk to reward as far as then it not panning out with that quarterback when you had a generational type talent with Pitts there, where you could have really just gone all in. I think it's too much to pass up. So yeah, Pitts is the pick here. That's a good consensus for me.
The 5th pick, the Cincinnati Bengals. Very similar to our conversation about the Cowboys pick. I will apply that same argument to this pick. I'm an LSU fan. I even told RJ, man, what if they want to pair back up Jamar Chase with Joe Burrow, the national championship duo? Of course, they're amazing, blah, 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 this and that. And Jamar Chase is the best wide receiver in this class, in my opinion. But at the end of the day, you have to protect your investment. Joe Burrow, he showed the traits that you want to see from the number 1 overall quarterback, but he couldn't stay on the field because his protection was terrible. So in this pick, I'm going to take the best offensive tackle prospect in my opinion, and that's Penei Sewell. He'll be able to protect Joe Burrow's blind side for the next 10 plus years probably. He's a very young player, and in his youth, whenever he was starting at Oregon, he showed some very, very elite traits. Being able to play off balance and recover very, very well. And, it's all about protecting your investment. And the biggest investment you can make is a quarterback. They've already done that. The next thing is protecting him. So I'm going to go with offensive line here, even though it's very, very enticing to take Chase and get that duo back together.
Yeah. The Bengals just released some new uniforms, and they had a picture of Joe Burrow on there, and you could see his humongous scar from his surgery back on his knee when he injured it. Towards the later half of the season, and to me, when I saw that, I'm like, man, yes, Jamar Chase is the best receiver in this draft class. I think he would have been the best receiver in last year's draft class. To me, it makes me think like, man, you know what? I'd go as far as to say it would kind of be, yes, it'd be a really great pick, but it'd also be a really dumb pick. I think now, if they took Chase, I'd go as far as saying that. So they have to go with the best offensive lineman in this year's draft, and that's Penei Sewell.
But you don't have to wait very long for Chase to hear his name called. I think this is the pick that I've kind of had written in, along with, the top 2 or whatever. I think this is it should be a done deal, unless the Dolphins pull out of the 6th pick, but I don't think so. I think they came back up because they were intent on getting one of the best offensive weapons, and that is Jamar Chase in this class. Tua needs weapons, obviously. If you're going to evaluate a young quarterback, you got to give him as much help as possible. They don't have a true stud number 1 in this offense. They have really good wide receiver 2s, I would argue, and like Preston Williams and Devontae Parker. But a true number 1, if you insert Jamar Chase in there and pair him with the guys that are already on the team, man, that's a formidable trio you already have. Plus, you got Mike Gesicki at tight end. They'll probably take a running back later on in this draft. There's plenty of guys to choose from. So take the best player left on the board. I think that's kind of what the philosophy that the Dolphins have been following since Brian Flores came in and their Chris Greer, their new GM. So take the best player and move on, because you got more picks in the first round. They have plenty of picks.
Yeah, I'd pencil this one in. Also, Tua needs if you really think he's your guy, then Tua needs a weapon on the outside. And to me, Jamar Chase is just like a combination of these past LSU receivers that have come out multiple years. I think he's the best one.
The next pick is the Detroit Lions at 7. This one's interesting. They could go a bunch of different ways. Obviously, they traded Matthew Stafford for Jared Goff in basically like a salary dump, take on whatever. Basically, Jared Goff is their quarterback currently. Is he the current quarterback for the future? I don't know. There's still quarterbacks on the board here. If you're following our draft, there's still Trey Lance on the board. There's still Mac Jones on the board. They also have a glaring need at wide receiver. So before I say who I would go with, I kind of want to get your perspective on what direction or what line of thinking you would be on if you were on the Lions seat.
I immediately thought back to the GM and the relationship that he's had with Goff. And they don't have any weapons at all, so it's kind of like, what are you doing for the fan base if you say you went out and just got this guy and you have this relationship built up with him, but then you say let's get a quarterback? Well, you literally don't have any weapons.
Yeah, there's nothing to really support Goff or the rookie that's there.
Exactly.
So then, So then we're thinking along the same lines. I mean, to me, that roster has a glaring need at wide receiver. They lost Kenny Golladay. They lost Marvin Jones. Both of those guys were obviously their top reception leaders, yardage leaders for like the last 4 years. Then it comes down to who do you think is the best of the two that are available. There's Jalen Waddle, and then there's Devontae Smith, both Alabama wide receivers. I don't have a strong opinion either way with these guys. The only reason that I lean Waddle is because of the head coach. I think that he's going to look at a physical specimen, a guy that has unreal athleticism like Waddle versus, let's just say, a very skinny guy but a very, precise, smooth route runner in Devontae Smith, and he's going to go for the speed. He's going to look at that, and that's going to make them lean towards Waddle. I could be completely wrong. There's been rumblings of Devontae Smith going within the top 5. It just depends on how teams are going to value them. I really think that the stigma of weight is going to weigh on Devontae Smith, so he'll last, maybe possibly even be on the top 10. That's just my feeling. I could be completely wrong. That's why I lean Waddle at this pick.
Yeah, I lean Waddle too. When people look at Waddle, you want to say explosiveness and you want to say Tyreek. That's the comparison that people want to give him. They want him to be, obviously, for the team that whoever drafts him. And with the news coming out today with Devontae Smith weighing in at 166, yeah, like Sal said, I feel like that will, that'll maybe scare a little bit of teams off. So Waddle's the pick here.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I mean, 2 teammates and I don't know, weird. But moving on to the 8th pick, the Carolina Panthers. They were very active also in this, off-season free agency. They traded for Sam Darnold. Last year they signed Teddy Bridgewater. So do they have a true answer at quarterback? I don't know. But they're going to try and find out if Darnold's the guy. He's still very young at 23 years old. You would think that this takes them out of the quarterback market because they still haven't offloaded Teddy Bridgewater. But who knows? I'm going to assume that what they told Darnold was that he's going to be the starter and he's the future, so let's invest in him. So same thought process as the Bengals. I'm going to take the best guy to protect him, and that's Rashawn Slater. I think RJ is in the opinion that Slater is better than Sewell. A lot of people are actually of that opinion. The guy has unreal strength. Another young guy who showed out early in his career, who played multiple positions. I really like this player. He's very nasty on tape. I don't think this could be, a Pro Bowl player for many, many years. It's not a bad pick at all. Is it the sexiest pick? No. But is it the right pick? Yeah. Especially whenever you look at the board and you want to look at, hey, let's just say, who's the best guy available outside of quarterback? You could argue Devontae Smith. We've already talked about, the stuff dealing with his weight. That, and if you look at their wide receiver core, they're pretty much set. They have DJ Moore. They have Robbie Anderson. Adding another weapon on there would be nice. It doesn't hurt. But protecting your quarterback is, I think, a much higher priority whenever you're this high up in the draft.
Yeah, again, there's good weapons around him. To me, Darnold has a lot more upside than Bridgewater. I think Bridgewater is who he is. You're always going to get the same thing with him year in and year out. Slater, I do like him a little better because he's played multiple positions across the board, and I feel like he can be elite at every single one. So, like I said, win now. You want to compete in the division. You just traded for Darnold. Would it be nice to go ahead and re-up like we just said with the Falcons? But as far as getting in that investment, but in the quarterback, but I think you got to go with the left tackle and you got to compete now.
The 9th pick, the Denver Broncos. This one, again, yes, they need defense, but there's a new GM. Do they have a true answer at quarterback? I don't know. I'm not going to judge Drew Lock and say that he's not good or good. I think he's shown flashes of good. He's shown flashes of terrible. And because of that, and because of a new GM coming in, if there's no trades here, then I think there's a flashing light that Trey Lance should be the pick. He is a quarterback that he doesn't have a lot of film. I believe he only started 17 games in his career in college. They only played 1 game this season in COVID and everything. So, and that was kind of an up and down performance. He's just an interesting player. Coming out of North Dakota State, same college as Carson Wentz. I'm not going to say, judging by the color of his uniform or by the helmet, I don't want to time to Wentz at all. But he has the mobility. He has the arm strength. I don't really know. There's question marks around this guy. He's not as sure of a thing as the other 3 quarterbacks that we've already mocked. But there's enough there that I think a team like the Broncos, where they don't have a set future at quarterback, are going to want to pick him.
I think you could probably compare him a lot to Josh Allen. As far as the competition-wise goes, coming out, you're not too sure. He's got a big arm. It'd definitely be an investment that you'd have to be in. Again, you really want to see what you can do by getting the best talent around him. The thing is, they already have a lot of talented guys around him on the offensive side of the ball. So I feel like if you took this guy, it'd really be an open quarterback competition.
Mm-hmm. And to me, what's the alternative here? What are the best players that are still available on the board? Devontae Smith. They need defense, so J.C. Horn, Patrick Surtain, those guys are up there for the best defensive player. Or you take a quarterback. What has the most value and where they have need? They have need at all 3 of those spots, really. You can never have too many wide receivers. Corners, a need for them, though they did sign a couple guys that aren't long-term solutions. But quarterback, I mean, if you have the opportunity to take a quarterback when you're really, really not set at that spot, I think you have to pull the trigger. But now we get to the pick that obviously we'll both be waiting for. I'll let you start this one off. I mean, I think it's pretty clear, cut and dry. If they're not moving, it comes down to 2 players if you follow the course of our draft.
But I'm going to put this out there. If the draft does fall this similar way, I think 9 and 10, I think the phones will be ringing a lot as far as for a guy like Trey Lance or even Mac Jones, whoever wants to come up and get them. But for now, we're going to stick with the pick. We're going to stick with 10. And, man, both cornerbacks are very intriguing. And I like Horn a little bit more personally, but when I looked at Surtain's spider chart again, I was just like, man, this guy is he's just a for certain thing, I feel like, as far as soundness goes. And there's really nothing wrong with that. And Horn maybe a little bit more of a splashy type guy. And today there's an interview with Kyle Pitts, the Dallas, interviewing him, and he says Horn was the best guy he's faced all year. But also, systematically, Alabama does have a lot of stuff that's derived that goes into the NFL, and Surtain and Diggs being teammates together, I feel like, is even more so as far as communication on the back end of what you want in your secondary. And I guess we'll have to go with Patrick Surtain.
I mean, if you were making the pick, I feel like that wouldn't be where you would go, but that's where I would go, because if I'm picking in the top 10, I'm less of a risk taker. So when I say that, I feel like Surtain is, you know what to expect. He's a well-rounded corner all the way through. At the line of scrimmage, he doesn't freak out. He's very, very smooth. He recovers well, and he's just going to be on your hip pocket. He's not going to be aggressive or anything at the ball like a J.C. Horn, who's just like in your face constantly. But with a player like that comes penalties early in your career, and finding that balance between how aggressive can I be at the line of scrimmage, how touchy can I be. And we've seen this in the past with corners that are young and coming out. I mean, it's hard to maneuver in the NFL whenever that is a primary thing that you lean on in your skill set. And then at the end of it, he's going up against professional wide receivers that know how to bait the system and know how to ask for flags. So that would be my concern early on for Horn, which is why I lean towards Surtain. I mean, they're both really, really great players. RJ kind of touched on it, but the other thing that pushes me towards Surtain is that the sophistication that they have in Alabama as far as their defense goes, and the different techniques and different coverages that they're brought up through. I mean, you could put him into multiple different defenses and he'd be ready to go. And I feel like this is going to be a multiple cover 3 zone. It's going to be very, very complex in coverages with Dan Quinn coming in. So I'm going to go with the guy I'm more comfortable with, a little bit less risk, and pick Surtain. If both of them were on the board, though, like I said, I'd be happy with either. If somebody like the New England Patriots is calling at 15, maybe I answer and maybe I get off the phone, because if they're coming up, I know that they're going quarterback, and then that pushes one of these guys possibly further down the board. But
what draft was it where we felt like we just had to take a guy and teams were calling, but we stuck? Bro, it was last year, bro, where teams were calling to move up, but and they've stuck to their gun. And even with even in the Zeke's draft, when they thought Baltimore wanted to move up, but they said no, they thought that they would take Zeke. If they like the player, they're going to stay there, and they're going to pick him. I don't see them moving. If they're going to say no, we this is a position of need, and your need matches up with BPA value, so they're going to stay there, and they're going to make the pick.
And I don't think there's any disguising the fact that the Cowboys like this player.
Mm-hmm.
He's been tied to them, going way back. His dad, even Patrick Surtain Sr., came out and said, I think he'd be a perfect fit in the Cowboys. But J.C. Horn is there too, with NFL lineage. I don't know. It'll be interesting. I think Surtain's going to be the pick. I think the Cowboys would be ecstatic if he's there for them at 10. But let's move on. If you follow along in this draft, there's still some big names available. I'm interested to see where Devontae Smith's going to end up.
Yeah.
He could go as early as the 12th pick to the Giants, which is actually where I think he'll end up. I think Dave Gettleman isn't going to be able to, or actually they're the 11th pick. I don't think Gettleman is going to pass up on a player like that. J.C. Horn, who we just talked about, I don't think he makes it past the Eagles at 12, and that'll be a perfect fit for that environment. Then again, there's a new head coach there, same GM. I don't really know where he's going to lean, and in fact, I don't think the head coach will probably have any say in who they pick. But
yeah, I don't think so.
That's kind of the relationship they have there
with Howie.
The other aspect of this draft that intrigues me are the edge rushers. When is the earliest one going to go? Because there's not really that standout guy. Here, as we get closer, Jalen Phillips is kind of rising up because he showed elite traits. He has a full tool set, but he has some very, very serious injury concerns. He, in fact, retired at one point and then came back with Miami. He was originally at Pitt, if I'm not mistaken. I'm probably
UCLA.
UCLA. There
UCLA.
you go. I was getting the colors mixed up. UCLA. He played there for 2 years, retired medically, then came back and played for Miami. Then there's also a couple of other guys at Miami that could possibly go in the first round. But Jason Owe from Penn State, Kwity Paye from Michigan, Aziz Ojulari from Georgia. It's a really weird mix of edge rushers. Whenever in the draft, usually you see like these guys going in the top 5, top 10. But this year, the earliest you might see an edge rusher goes the 15th pick, or maybe even in the 20s. It's really, really strange to me. There's also a very, very deep class of, yes, we covered Sewell, we covered Slater, but there's guys like Tevin Jenkins, Elijah Vera Tucker, Darisaw, Liam Eichenberg from Notre Dame. There's some really, really good tackles that I think that are tackle/guards that are gonna go later in this draft. So if you're not picking the top 10, there's plenty of good players in this draft, is what I'm saying.
But it is also a very small amount of players, especially with the pandemic and everything that's in this year's draft. So I feel like I'll go touch on the Dallas situation. I feel like if you do go Surtain, then I'd really like to double dip, and I'd really either move up at the beginning of the second round, or if you really like somebody else, then really shore up that back end to know that is absolutely not a question mark heading into the season.
To me, if we're gonna stick to talking about the Cowboys, the absolute thing, like the first pick, the 10th pick, I like the first round, but I'm always interested in the second round because it's wide open. You don't know who's gonna go. There's not really anything scripted. Oh yeah, we know who's gonna go 1. We know who's gonna go 2. You don't know what the heck is gonna happen. But to me, the priority has to be invest in safety. Get me a safety, because they haven't done that probably since Darren Woods or Roy Williams. Roy Williams was the last time, but he was more like a true strong safety. Get me a free safety. Get me Richie Grant. Maybe if you like Trevon Moehrig from TCU better, move it back up into the first round and get him. Or if he makes it, the top pick of the second round, just do something to get up. They've done it before. They jumped up to get DeMarcus Lawrence whenever he was flashing on the board for him as an edge rusher. So just please, whether it's a corner in the first round or not, go get a safety somehow, some way.
Yeah. That's what I was saying too. Just go ahead, go double dip. Go make sure that is not a question mark heading into the season.
Going back to the draft overall, though, something that I mentioned to RJ whenever we were talking about the Cowboys last time was just overall in this draft, something that people haven't talked about really or considered that I'm interested in seeing is, and this is because we don't have very much insight into which players teams like, but how much how much are teams going to factor in players that didn't play this past season? So a Sewell, a Slater, they didn't play this past season. Jamar Chase, who knows? Maybe the teams will value them a little bit less than guys who did play the season. I don't know. That's just my brain working in different ways. We just really don't know. And that kind of brings up another player that I forgot that I'm interested to see where he goes, and that's Caleb Farley, who had a back injury, who was probably the consensus #1 overall corner before that. It seems like it may be something he deals with his whole career, but I still see him going in the first round. I think the Jets pick 18th. They have a pretty big need at corner. I don't think if he makes it past there, I know that the Saints will pick him in the first round. They have another need at corner, and he's got the talent. It's just going to come down to the medical. And as fans and as pundits will tell you, this year we know as little as we've ever known about medical. So expect on draft night a lot of news, more so than we've had in the past, because it's just going to be like an information dump. All this stuff that camps have been holding back, it's just going to come out. The players, the agents, they're all just going to let out a bunch of stuff, and then the teams, of course, are going to let you know basically what they're interested in. But I think that pretty much covers it. I mean, it'll be exciting. We're just over 1 week away from the first round. I'm very excited. There's going to be some great players taken, and hopefully a great Dallas Cowboy, a Pro Bowler, and if we keep our hopes high, Hall of Famer at the 10th overall pick. But we appreciate you watching this video. If you like Dallas Cowboys and NFL content, please like, subscribe to the channel. We appreciate you watching, and we'll see you next time.
Yo, I ain't here for the